Hello, everyone. It's me, Adam Reed. I look more Chinese since the last time you've seen me. Okay, no. This is Bobby Del Rio. So, just so you know, here's what happened. I was supposed to be a guest on the show, and the usual host for Reed is actually on holiday in England, in London. And so there was a guest host, Adam Reed. Unfortunately, today he had a family emergency, so we're hoping everything is okay for Adam. And so I've been asked to be a host for today because I've hosted 45 episodes of television in the last couple of years. And it's also the 13th. It's not Friday the 13th, but it's still, it's got that freaky kind of vibe. So I've been thrown in, and I'm excited to host. This is Entertainment 411. It's a show that gives the audience a backstage pass into the Canadian entertainment industry. Okay, so it's live. Anything can happen. We got interactive interviews. Usually we've got casting directors, producers, directors, actors, all kinds of different entertainment industry professionals. Today we've got a panel focusing on directors and producers. We are going to guide the conversation to, sort of more of an emerging audience member, but I'm sure we've got some senior people too. And if anyone does have questions, throughout the entire broadcast, if you message the eBoss account on Facebook, that's the best way. And then we're going to try to get as many questions as we can at the end. So we'll probably go somewhere between 60 to 90 minutes, maybe closer to 60, but we'll see how the conversation goes. And thank you for coming. I'm going to introduce the guests. So we've got 3 guests. The first guest, I hope it in this order, is Kat HOSTICK. Woo!
Oh, hey.
Kat HOSTICK and Charlene loves her shirt so much that Kat has promised she will sign her shirt and send it to her at the end of the day.
I'm willing to give it up.
Well, that's what she said. And number 2, Dwayne Crichton. It's Dwayne Crichton. There's a rumor that Dwayne and I are in a monogamous relationship, but that's not true. We're open, so anyone can join us. Look at the rumors I'm starting. I'm only saying this because I am an actor in Kat HOSTICK's Polly is the New Monogamy, now streaming on Hollywood Suite, and Polly is the New Monogamy. So we are all in a polycule today, which is the relationship of many, many people. I'm making it weird. And also on the panel is Ryan Singh.
Hello, guys. Thank you for having me.
He's a lot cooler than all of us, so we're all trying to be Ryan. I have a photo of Ryan for motivation in my bedroom, and I'm like, I can be Ryan if I just try harder, So look, this is our panel. It's exciting. Everyone's done lots of stuff. We're going to find out all the cool things that they've done. But let's start with one question, and again, we'll go one at a time. I'll just start with Kat, then I'll go to Dwayne, then Ryan, just in that order, just for simplicity. So, but we're each going to have a chance to talk. What was your journey to becoming a film and television producer?
Can we start with someone else?
Okay. So Kat is no longer on the panel. That sure will not be sent to Charlene. Okay, Ryan, Dwayne?
Yeah, I'll start.
Dwayne, go for it.
Okay, so it really, I knew from a pretty early age, I think. My first recollection is a grade 8 art project where I wrote like writer/director on it. So I think I had a pretty clear idea at a young age, just had to make it happen. And then I figured out if I couldn't go to film school in the States, this was in high school, but I couldn't go to film school in the States and I couldn't be a director. That was kind of the thing in my head. I ended up going to RTA, Radio and Television. It was great. And in that program, decided to come out and actually try to be a director and try to do it. So I started out just being really a production assistant on music videos and TV commercials and kind of building my reel the whole time. So doing low budget films, doing low budget music videos. That work eventually got me a rep. And then I did a lot of music videos and then a commercial rep. So I did a ton of commercials for many, many years. And kind of went down that road for quite a while and had a career on the commercial side. And then I would say just a bit pre-pandemic, I decided, you know what, it's time to get back to telling stories. because it had been a while that I hadn't done anything kind of longer than a minute. So I wrote and directed a couple of short films, did a long form documentary, which got into TIFF. I think it was last year it was in TIFF. And because of that and being in the Warner Brothers Canadian Academy program last year, this year I got my first episode of dramatic television. So I just wrapped my first episode of Murdoch Mysteries, and that just happened. Yeah, I'm actually working on the edit right now. So it was amazing, a great experience. And I can say right now I feel pretty much like I'm on the episodic side of things finally, which is kind of where I wanted to be for the last little while.
Congratulations. I mean, it's amazing, inspiring. And again, for anyone who's aspiring, producer, director, especially on the director side, like look everybody up on the panel. Like, I've known most of the people here for years, and it's been pretty inspiring to see how people have made their ascent. But thank you, Dwayne. That was awesome. Okay, so Ryan, did you want to go next?
Yeah, I can go next. For me, my father is a writer and director, and so I had an opportunity to be on stage very early on, and coming to Canada was a transition for me. And it took me a while before I started to get back and understanding this new platform, film and television. So I started back on stage, working on stage, and that's where I started producing and directing on my father's work, and then with other people before I picked up a camera and started creating short documentaries, community videos, that sort of thing. And then I got an opportunity to make a longer form documentary when I went to South Africa with a gentleman named Dwayne Morgan, who's been doing When Brothers Speak and When Sisters Speak, the spoken word piece in Canada. And it took me 7 years to make that as a director and producer. And then a few months later, I went to Sri Lanka and I captured a story, and it took me 11 years to finish that. And so now I have my first feature documentary out in theaters, and it's now doing so well. We're excited about where it's going to go next. But I also had a chance to do my first episode of television as a co-director on The Nature of Things, but seriously, which is the #1 streaming episode of The Nature of Things on CBC Gems and #3 on the main platform. So it's very exciting for the journey that I've been taking so far, and now going back into narrative with the work I'm doing. So
It's amazing. It's also like, for anyone who doesn't know, Ryan and I've known each other for 20 years or something. When we were both in Tom Todorow's class on the
include. We started with Include in 2001 thereabouts.
Yeah. And he was an EP
Yeah.
for a web series that I created. I mean, congratulations, Ryan. I mean, you really are a testament to just grinding and not giving up, and it's amazing to see all you're doing now.
Thank you.
I was gonna say, Ryan, I've known you for like so many years, and it's really cool to see how far you come and like your journey progress. It's super inspiring.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And it's good to watch and see all of your own journeys as well. I mean, you all are examples of people that I look up to, if I were to say mentors of mine. So,
well, I've got a photo of you on my wall. It's poster size. It's actually life size. It says Bobby Del Singh on it. So hopefully one day make that happen. I don't know if that's like an arranged marriage thing. We'll figure it out. Kat, do you want to go? I can do a quick one. It's up to you.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
I'll go last.
Mine's gonna be very simple. I mean, my journey to becoming a film, TV producer and director. So I started as an actor. I started economics at U of T, and then transferred to the Arundel program, which is a theater and drama studies program with the University of Toronto, Mississauga, and Sheridan College. So I was like a Shakespeare trained actor, and then I started writing plays in school, and I won an award for writing a play at the U of T Drama Festival, and then, which is kind of still true, I directed it, not because I really knew what the hell I was doing, but because I was like, you can't change a word of my genius. But that was really my entry point. And then since then, I've had a pretty long career doing lots of stuff, mostly in front of the camera, but I've definitely directed and produced a ton of stuff as well. And it's for me, it's amazing how, you really just jump in, you start, you learn to make mistakes. I think that's the common thread that I've seen for everyone, is that at a certain point you just start making stuff. Okay, Catherine HOSTICK, Cat HOSTIC.
I was like, how do I explain the journey of doing so many different things to finally becoming a director? I feel like I've done so much. But I had like when I was little, like I knew that I wanted to like act and make movies. Like I think I made my first horror movie in like grade 5 or 6 or something with a camcorder, and like didn't know what I was doing. So I've always kind of wanted to do that, and I went to U of T, you know, in the film program if you want to be a critic, basically not anything practical. And I really started as an actress in the business, and then I just wanted to start making my own stuff. And so I started small and like directing shorts and then music videos and commercials. And then I ended up making a feature, which is kind of a long story. It was actually a short film that was too long to be programmed, and we continued making it into a feature. So that was actually my first feature, which was not planned. And then I really wanted to get into television. So I've directed over like 35 episodes of television now, and also like producing. I started a company a couple of years ago and producing stuff, including a new show that Bobby is one of the stars of, called Poly's New Monogamy. It's a half-hour comedy series. So yeah, I've done a lot of different things in between trying to become a director, like, you know, working as an AD on sets and PAing and doing all tons of stuff. But eventually it led me to being a director.
And you're also in the Murdoch Mysteries family. We got a couple.
I am in the Murdoch Mysteries family, yes.
And I'm Bobby Del Murdoch, so I'm. It's a dumb joke, but it works on CBC. Okay, let's get into conversation. So for people at home and also for our panel here, we're gonna have 3 segments with a couple of breaks. I'm gonna keep it somewhat open-ended. Everyone's pretty experienced on the panel. We're all friends. This is gonna be a friendly conversation. If you do have questions, we're gonna save it to the end. We're going to talk probably about 45 to 60 minutes, something like that. But if you have questions, look at the eBoss page, message us on Facebook, and we're going to do our best to have those questions at the end. So what's really interesting about the 3 of you, and me too, I feel like the same way, you know, there's not really a path. You know, it's like when I meet younger people, because there's definitely some newer people who are trying to figure out, oh, maybe they've never directed or produced before. Maybe they're an actor. Maybe they're trying to break into the business. I remember I was very impressionable at the beginning. It's like, oh, there's only one way. You've got to do it right. And if you don't get it right, you know, but it's like, it's so different for everyone. Like, does anyone want to speak to that? Like, how do you navigate yourself in this industry where the path is unclear, you know?
Well, I remember when we were standing at the Canadian Screen Awards, Bobby, in 2013, I think it was, and we were looking at the spaces and we were seeing a sea of white people, and we were talking and we were saying, we gotta fucking, excuse my language, we gotta do something different to make something different and to see the difference inside that room. And literally the next year you went off and you started to create in real life, and it took you maybe a year or 2 to develop that, and that was inspiring for me. And so I was one of your first people that jumped on that and contributed, because if we were going to make a difference, we got to be the stepping stool for each other. And so that meant a big deal for me, and that was my biggest credit on my resume for a long time. But it allowed you to create and to grow. And for me, I had to follow in that example. And so for Mr. Crichton, he came on board in my life in 2020, 2021, when we were doing BIPOC TV and film. And so listening to these career paths was inspiring for me. And I knew that there was a space that needed to be carved out, and a storyteller like myself emerging.
It's amazing. And again, Ryan, like, thank you so much you really did make a difference for IRL. I, I think we could have made it without you, but I'm not sure. So that's pretty much the biggest compliment I could give. So, like, no, you were really hands on, and no, I appreciate that. Okay, so Kat, Dwayne, what do you think about one path? Is there a path? Like, how do you do it?
No. Yeah, there's no path. You have to make your own path. You almost have to like cut your own path through the jungle, like as it were. And it's a weird one too, because you have to make things, whether you're an actor or a director or producer, you have to make things for you to get to make the next thing, right? And even if you don't like what you've made, you still need to show it, because by showing it to people, that's when you get opportunity to the next thing, or you get a criticism that makes you better for the next time. So, it's, you never know. I think in all these years, what I've learned is that there's no end of the tunnel. It's just constantly doing new things, and then hopefully those things open new opportunities. And if they don't, you do the next thing, and maybe that'll open an opportunity, and then you keep going. And that's really what this life is, if you choose it, is to go from project to project and try to get better as you go. Try your best to get better as you go.
Yeah, I really appreciate the honesty on this panel too. So I've hosted a lot of panels, and sometimes people are just like, "I'm amazing, and being amazing." Pigeons fly around me and give me jobs. But it's, I know, but it's not true. Okay, Kat. So what about you? Is there a path? Is there one path?
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the first things I did when I realized that I wanted to make my own films is I would like try and find mentors and like meet up with different people. And I just like ask a lot of, like, if they were willing, of course, I would just ask them a lot of questions and just be like, can you tell me your journey, or like tell me your experience in the business? And honestly, through that, I just learned that like from early on that everybody's path is so different and there's no one way to get there. And yeah, going off of kind of what Dwayne said, I think like sometimes you have to take like projects that you don't necessarily want to. Like I think that this is a big thing for filmmakers or actors, is like you want to be careful about the first thing that you do, and you're so precious about it. But then sometimes you become stagnant in that way, rather than just like taking something and learning from it and moving on and like learning from that. And then also by doing that, you gain momentum, and then more people hear about you. So that's kind of been somewhat of my path, is just like, being a yes man for a little bit. But then some people just have like, they get like a big movie right away or have like so much success. It's like, everyone is so different. So definitely not one path.
I'm going to get into one more question, and then we're going to have a quick break. We have a sponsor, a commercial. It's very professional. We got sponsors and all kinds of stuff. I'll weigh in a little bit to this, and then I'm going to go into a question. I'm really curious to hear your answers. For me, it's funny, like in terms of the one path thing. What do you think, Bobby? Well, actually, I've been a playwright. I've been an actor. I've been a theater director. I've created web series. I made short films. I somehow became this like social audio influencer during the pandemic. Now I'm hosting TV. It's amazing. I was a film programmer. I was a political activist. Like it's amazing how many different hats. It's not even you have to wear. I actually look at it very positively. I think that you get to wear, like, for me, I just think I really do. I love being a host because I really like people. I like their stories. And it's so interesting to see the different ways that people, I don't know, kind of build their career. Like for me, it's very exciting. But there's a lot of people who are sort of newer. And also, look, it's a challenging time in the global film and television industry. So I just thought maybe one question to be interesting is, how do you actually get jobs? Like I think that if you haven't really worked in the business, I think there's a lot of people who are new who think, you have to have a resume and you submit to LinkedIn. They really don't know, right? Because it's almost like the secret world of entertainment industry employment. So I just thought, like, let's go into like how you actually get jobs, like different ways that you get jobs. Whoever wants to jump in first.
I'll go first this time.
Okay.
The other way around.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways to get jobs. It depends if you're like a director, producer, actor, whatever. I guess like, speaking as a director, I'll say this: you need to start with having some kind of body of work. Like I knew a director, and she said that she was working, I think, as an AD on some show in the States. It was on one of Mindy Kaling's shows. And she actually got in the door just by being an AD. And she was like, hey, Mindy, I would love to direct like one of these episodes. And she's like, okay, great. I like you, but like, can I see your work? And she's like, well, I don't have anything. And then so what she did was she went and like made a short film that was somewhat in the genre. And then I think she got a shot at like directing one of her shows. So I think the point is like you need to start and you just need to do something, because the chance of someone just giving you an opportunity with nothing is pretty rare. So that would be the first thing I would say for emerging filmmakers or directors or anything. But I'll let Ryan or Dwayne kind of talk about maybe the more mainstream part of like getting directing.
Well, that is pretty mainstream what you just said. For me, my episode of not Murdoch, that's yours, Dwayne, of the CBC show that I did, I went on Facebook and I actually applied for the job, and incidentally, they were looking for people who they could mentor into this space, the nature of things, and so I was selected, and even though I referred someone else that I thought was more capable than myself, they said that person is already placed on another episode, but we would like to work with you. And so that was an opportunity that I had, and it was a full year's opportunity for me to see the entire landscape of this production business. And incidentally, it was everything that I've been preparing and doing for so many years already in my independent films, only I didn't have the language for it. And then I've always been creating my own work. And so in creating your own work, you also become an inadvertent mentor. And so when you mentor other people, they want to work with you and they hire you. And so that's one of the ways that I've been getting my jobs, is people wanting to hire me because I am working with them already in mentoring them as a producer, as a director, or something like that. And I'm also becoming their producer shadow or their director shadow or something like that. They're shadowing me and learning and developing real amazing content. Eli Gorey, for example, who was in One Night in Miami, I was doing a play and he was working with me, and we really worked on a lot of stuff that most of his other work that he ended up doing was because of the work that we did.
Amazing. I actually, fun fact, used to play basketball with Eli. Yeah. I mean, I think he was much better than I was, but that's a whole other thing. Okay, and very different, Kat and Ryan, which I suspected, and Dwayne, I imagine, is even different again. Dwayne.
Yeah, I'll just go a bit deeper on it, because I agree with Kat very much that you need to have work on your reel. And I think what you need to think about is what kind of work do you want to be doing? Like, do you want to be, if you're doing dramatic, do you want to be a comedy director or a dramatic director? So I would highly suggest like working on pieces, whether it be short films or small pieces that are in the vein of the stuff that you want to do. So I think, yes, you have to produce the work to get hired, but if you're doing your first few things, I think really think deeply about what kind of work you want to do, where you kind of see yourself, and what are you attracted to, and really devour that work, and then make sure. I think the more you kind of not necessarily reference, but really hone in on the stuff that you love and the kind of storytelling you love, the more that's going to show in the first few pieces that you do, and hopefully that gets you on the road to doing the kind of work that you really want to do.
So interesting, right? Everyone's path is slightly different, which I suspected, which is why I want to ask the question. I'll give my brief experience, and then we're going to go to a commercial break. I've been in this business for 26 years, and I still don't know what the hell I'm doing. like, like I don't know what you guys. I've done a lot of stuff, and it's like always different, you know. Like when I was on Clubhouse during the pandemic, for anyone who doesn't know, it was a big app during the pandemic. It was like talking to people all around the world, sort of like a live podcast. I somehow became one of the most popular personalities in the entire world. I got an agent in Hollywood. All these amazing things happened, and I remember thinking, okay, I'm in my room in Toronto. I'm locked down. And even though I am an actor as well as other things, I'm just going to say I'm a writer because at least maybe I could type a script from my room and someone I meet will like, oh, I'll buy it. I don't know. And what's funny is that that didn't happen. And in fact, I started getting acting jobs. And I was like, how am I getting acting jobs? I was like hosting like this, and it was audio only, but it's like people could just tell or something that I was a performer. I didn't even tell them. I remember for 6 months, I didn't even say I was a performer. And then I got all this work, you know? And then how did I get cast in Kat's show, in Polly is the New Monogamy, now on Hollywood Suite? You know, it's not that I didn't like send her my photo and resume. It's like one day she like called me and was like, "Hey, I just wrote a TV show." I was like, "Amazing!" And she was like, "Yeah, and I wrote a role for you based on you." And I was like, "What? Why would you do that?" And then she said, "I'm gonna cast Simu Liu to play you, but he got too expensive, so I got to play myself." Which was nice. But my point is, like, you really don't know, like for me anyway, like where it's gonna take you, and I just stay open, and I just make friends, and I feel like everything comes from the people you meet, and your natural energy. But it's pretty cool that it's different for everyone. Although I will say again, like Kat and I have known each other for 7 years, and I think Ryan and I have known each other for 20 years or something. Like it's amazing, like how relationships keep coming back. You know, you see the same people over and over again. I'm sure I'm going to see Dwayne really drunk during TIFF, and hey man, remember we did this thing, and he'll be like, bro, I was the host. Remember? He's like, shut up. Okay, guys, we're going to go to commercial break. We've got Kat Hosstick, Dwayne Crichton, and Ryan Singh. We're going to break.
Good director who gives you good notes. I'm going to be a bad director who gives you lousy notes.
My Tribe Studio, a versatile space for your projects, a space to find your tribe.
That was My Tribe, our sponsor, with their commercial promoting My Tribe.
Bobby,
yes.
Are you able to put my last name on my name tag?
I have no power, but
I don't. I'm like Zendaya. I
God,
only have one name.
Please, it's not a cat. Her name is Kat Hosstick. If there's a way to amend it, please.
I guess.
If you don't,
it's been amended.
Boom. So Kat, that's the power I have.
Wow.
Okay, and I can do that for any of you at any point in your lives. So if you're on the bathroom and you want to change your name, I can make it happen for you. Okay, look, so guys, we're about 30 minutes into the show. We do have a couple of set questions at the end. We got one more segment and then a break and then a third segment. Also, if you're at home and you have a question for any of our amazing panelists or the inferior Chinese Italian who's speaking right now, go to Facebook on the eBoss page and message us. I think maybe 1 to 3 questions is what I'm looking at the end of the show. But for this segment, we'll keep it limited. This will probably be like a shorter segment, but I do think it's going to be important. We were talking about it before. I personally view it as the hottest topic in the industry. I don't think anyone's going to fight on the panel. You know, it's not Jerry Springer. Kat, I'm talking to you. Calm down.
You know me so well.
Calm down. But this is definitely an issue where if you bring it up at like an industry barbecue, and you don't like really know people so well, you could start a Royal Rumble, which Ryan would probably win. Let's be honest. Although Dwayne's very quiet, and so he scares me. So I don't really know. But the topic is AI. Okay. This is a topic that it's funny. Like some artists are reduced to tears and screaming, and then others are like doubling down, tripling down. Their whole brand is now based on AI. Like, how do we see AI disrupting the film and television industry? Anybody wants to jump in first?
Well, it's already doing so, and in so many different ways. For example, I was an actor in The Expanse, and they shot me in the scene, and then they scanned me for the scene. And when you look at the production of that, it's incredible because they spent over $1 million or something like that just for that particular 2.5 minute scene. But they had to AI me in a way that created a scene, so it's very fluid. In our writing, we're constantly using AI. AI is embedded in all of the software that we're using right now for writing, and so we cannot get away from the use of AI in the work that we're doing in our creative endeavors, but also in our writing endeavors. It's a shortcut sometimes. So
yeah, no, it is interesting. There's so many different ways that AI is being used. Okay, Dwayne, I saw you exhale. I think you had a
Yeah. We were talking a bit earlier. I think from the actor's point of view, it's definitely, like I think there's going to be more AI tools in post production and editing, like Ryan's saying, within the software, and that's going to be, I guess, good in terms of these will be tools that'll be more robust to help us tell better stories and more visual stories. So that's a good thing. I think actors are very much on the front line right now because if they're being scanned, like, do they have rights to that scan, right? And in a perfect world, actors would have the rights to their image, and then they would get paid every time their image is used. It might not be as much as if they showed up in person, but they would get something. I think that's what we have to aim for, but I don't think that's the reality yet.
Catherine. Cat. Sorry, I call her Catherine.
Yeah, only my mom calls me that.
Ms. HOSTICK.
You know what? Like I don't know enough about any of this. All I know is that for a long time they've been doing, like, on big shows, 3D scans of background performers, and then I know that there's like debates on when they can use them. Like if they came in and they're on one episode, can they use them for that one episode, or can they use them for other episodes in the whole series? And I think so. I don't know. I imagine the same issue will happen with, like principal performers. But like, can you even do that with principal performers now? Like, is anyone actually doing that? That's a concern.
So this is what's really interesting. I'm not really going to weigh in too much, right? I think I'm more just going to keep this conversation flowing. But I think that no one really knows what the hell AI can do, what it will do, what it's going to do, what are the laws, what are the rules, are the laws different in Hollywood than they are in Canada, and they are in Zimbabwe? It's like this. I actually view AI as like, I don't know, like the Loch Ness monster in a way, where it's like, it's out there. You know what I mean? It's like, watch out for AI. Like it's this thing that seems somewhat nebulous and undefined, where some people be like, it can do everything, and then some people are like, oh, it sucks, it can't do anything, and everybody's timelines, it's like, in a week we're all gonna die, and other people are like, in 10 years it still won't be able to make an impact. Like, I think that the AI thing is really like more about fear. What do you guys think about that?
What? You told me that, or you interviewed that guy on your show.
No, I try to scare you all the time.
No, the guy who ran George Luke, was it, or what was he ran the VFX department? Like,
okay, yeah, sure, I'll say that. So Scott Ross. So I host a television series called Open Source, and I had Scott Ross on my show. So Scott Ross used to run Industrial Light and Magic for George Lucas for 10 years. Okay, so he worked on Apollo 13, Titanic, Terminator 2, and he believes 70% of all the VFX jobs in Hollywood will disappear in the next 3 years. Okay, but that doesn't mean that 70% of the jobs are going to disappear. That's his point of view, right? So I'm just saying, but so this is interesting, Kat, because that freaked you out, right?
It didn't freak me out. I'm good. But I feel bad for a lot of people.
But that's an interesting point that you brought up too, right? Because it seems like it's about how realistic is it that AI can take away your job? Like, it seems like this is the big fear. Anybody
I made a short film with my kids, a 7-minute short film, and it was really based on Alexa. And in doing that film, I had to do a number of different research in understanding AI. And it's funny that there is AI in everything that we do. Everything. 3 years ago, I would have had to hire someone to do translations for me. This year, I could press one single key and have the full film translated and just do corrections on that film. The thing we got to remember is that the power of AI is still dependent on the power of man, and our creativity will help shape the way that AI is going to be used and transform the way we do business. We're already seeing that when we look at photography, and everything is touched somehow with photography when we see it, because AI has impacted it. We will see that in everything that we do. Dwayne, you've done a lot of short form content as a commercial filmmaker. There are certain things that needs fixing that you can't fix manually, that AI can fix, and you're like, I can deliver this stuff to the client, because at the end of the day, the client wants the delivery and will pay the money to have that delivery and don't care how it comes. So
yeah, no, it's absolutely true. Actually, Bobby, I can't believe this slipped my mind. My short film that's out right now is also about AI, so it's definitely top of brain. It's about a woman whose home AI stages an intervention with her, so the AI knows more about what she wants than what she actually does. So, I think the fact that it's in so many stories, like Ryan's telling a story about it, I'm telling a story about it, we're at the point where kind of artists are trying to figure it out and where we're going. I think we all know we're on the path. It's just a matter of we're not clear at all of where it's taking us.
Yeah, look, I think that's a brilliant way to wrap up this segment. That was AI. We're going to go and take another commercial break, and then we'll be back with these genius artists.
You are a born protagonist. Look at you. You're a failed professional.
Okay, I wouldn't say failed.
You're a finding bastion of hope in a rundown old school.
I mean, it's not that
It
bad.
just happens to be shared by the only woman who ever broke your heart.
What did you do?
Shh. Just watch.
I've got a lot of auditions lined up, like so many auditions.
I can imagine. I can relate. I'm having so many bookings. Like, it's like a library, just books everywhere.
That's right. You're looking at the host of Canada's Next Great Handyman.
I nailed my audition, bro. They said they'd call me.
Guys, I'm going to be the host of Canada's Next Great Handyman. You are looking at the host of right over.
Okay, I'm feeling a little bit of hostility from you right now.
Oh, please mansplain it to me so I can understand it better.
Clearly you don't know what mansplaining is. Let me break it down for you.
He's dead.
Which is the purest and greatest form of theater? Improvisation.
Told you I would eat you! I told you I would eat you!
Woo! Let's go!
I cannot watch this anymore. This is agony.
That was Day Players. This is how you know that I was asked to be the host. today, like 3-4 hours ago. I was like, look at that thing we just saw. Whoa, I'm just making weird faces. Look, this is gonna be our last segment, and then we're going to take a couple questions from the audience. So again, if you're watching this and you really have a question, we're gonna get to your questions at the end. So just again, track us down on Facebook and message us. Don't swear. Right? Ryan really dropped an F-bomb, and every time you use the F word, an angel dies. So careful. There's one less angel in the world. Charlene, the great Charlene had texted me a question. Unfortunately, Charlene, I'm on my iPhone right now, and I'm too dumb to know how to use the text messaging function on my iPad. I'm real. You picked the wrong person for the job, but I'm pretty sure. I'm just calling it out. I'm pretty sure.
Tell her message me. Then.
It was actually for you. I think actually the question was to talk about poly is the new monogamy. So I think what I'm going to do is let's no, honestly, it was.
No, it was not.
So what I'm going to do is, because there's still 2 set questions, and then we're going to go to the audience. Why don't we all start with talking about a project that they've made recently, and maybe just go through the steps of like how you got it made. We've got a very experienced panel, and it's up to you, like whatever you want to talk about, like almost like a quick little how you got it made thing. Maybe we'll start with you, Kat, because I'm pretty sure that's what Charlene wanted, or maybe she was like, whatever you don't ask her about It's too late now. All right, Kat, tell us about poly is the new monogamy.
Poly is the new monogamy. Okay, so the question is how we got made? Is that
how you got it made? Like start from the beginning. There's people who are in the audience, and if you're watching this panel, it's probably because you love film and television, and you want to make it, whether you're a director or producer. And maybe there's people who don't really know, what are the basic steps to getting stuff made. And I'm sure we're all going to have different examples, but I'm just curious.
Such a long journey with this show. So like originally I wrote it, it's like a half-hour comedy series. Originally I wrote it as supposed to be like a web series, and then we made it in a proper like half-hour format. So originally there was actually a producer in LA who was really interested in the project, and there were some bigger people that were going to be attached to it. I felt at that time I had no experience in television, really. This was so long ago. Like I think the process began like 6 years ago or 7 years ago or something. And so I felt like I could potentially get cut out of that process. And then I felt like if I pitched it around in Canada, again, it's the same thing. I think the Canadian industry is a little bit insular with like writers and directors and everything else. And I think it's hard to get something greenlit. And I also think I kind of worried about, the edginess of it and like getting lost, and me having to modify it. And I just wanted to make something that was like 100% my voice and do it my way. So I just committed to doing it on my own. And I started a company a couple of years ago called Dreamweaver Pictures. And I just decided I was going to produce this on my own. So it's, I've produced before, but not been a producer on a TV series. So it was a bit of a different process, but yeah, I, put up that money. There was a little bit of outside investment, but it was mainly my money that I made as a director. And we ended up selling it to television, which is really cool, in Canada, and it's on streaming in the US. And very long process, but very rewarding.
There's a question that was sent to us too. Was it hard getting your show on a network? And again, I said we're going to do it questions at the end, but it is very relevant to what you're talking about right now, right? Like, so you've sold Poly's New Monogamy to Hollywood Suite. Can you talk just a bit about how you were able to do that?
Yeah, it's kind of a multiple step process. Like it wasn't just one way. Like we have a sales agent that's also working on the project. And then, I had a relationship over there, and then they had to like it, and they really did. And, they don't like take on so many series and stuff. They take on a lot of like more movies and things. So they just they just decided to take it. But it's very hard to get on a network in Canada. It's really, really difficult to make a sale. So I think this is like kind of a rare scenario. It's the proper process of television. You don't usually make stuff independently and then sell it afterwards, especially in in TV format. You usually make it with a network and everything, and they find pre-sales and all this stuff, and it's a whole other thing. So I did it a very different way than you usually would, I guess.
Which I personally think is inspiring, not because I'm in the show, but just as a journey, And I actually do think this is going to be the new way. Like, I think that today's independently made television series is like yesterday's independent feature film. I just think that's the new thing with like the technology, and you can do it, and there's so many platforms. But very, very inspiring. I hope that's what you wanted, Charlene. But I'm going to give Dwayne and Brian a chance too. So one of your projects, Dwayne or Ryan, whoever wants to go first. How did you get it made?
Yeah, to jump in on what the conversation right now, it's funny because I'm kind of in the middle of pitching a show the traditional way to the networks, and what Kat did is probably, I agree with you, the way to go in the future, because it is a hard process, it's a long process, but it's something that I made recently is the short I was talking about, a short called Home, and it was really just an idea that I had, the AI idea about a woman having her home AI have an intervention. I'm not sure how that idea actually hit, but it hit pretty quickly, and I wrote the script within like a week or two. Then I started making phone calls, and I called a DP friend of mine. They said yes. I called a friend who owns a very beautiful home and a couple, and they said yes. And then I started calling people, and everyone said yes, and that's how that short got made. And now it's going to be on the CBC Short Film Showcase in September. But honestly, any one of them saying no would have derailed the film, because I was counting like Kat self-funding on my part, but also limited resources. So, bigger favors, you need big favors to make it happen. So that's kind of back to our original conversation. Doing this for a living, you kind of have to have that hustle to go and ask people and put yourself out there and see what happens. And it's kind of a combination of preparation, perseverance, and luck. And then if that happens and you end up getting to make things, and when you do those things, usually those are the things that you really love, like the ones that you kind of really hustle for, that didn't come through a job or someone hiring you, and those are the things that kind of propel your career forward. So Kat did it on a very big end with actually doing a series, which is amazing. And even I would say my short film that I did last year is doing wonders for me this year. So yeah, it's all working out.
I don't know if I just like have a man crush on Dwayne, but I feel like I want him to just come to my home and explain things to me. Like, Dwayne, what's the difference between like rice milk and regular milk? Well, Bob, anyway. Just me? Come on, people. Okay, Brian, over to you. Something that you've made, like I know that you've been in the game for a long time.
Yes, for me, my first feature, it's 11 years in the making, and we started by me going into Sri Lanka. It's a story about Sri Lanka, the war, and the impact of the war on the Tamil people, and the resilience that they've shown despite the circumstances of coming to many countries as refugees. And so it was a 9-year journey of not knowing what to do, and then the pandemic hit, and I got a chance to get into a breakthrough program. I got a chance to get into an OYA program, learning about business affairs, and I also got a chance to learn about co-production. But each of these opportunities, working with real world and different places, each of these opportunities allowed me to gain more experience, and I just sap it up, and I used all of those opportunities as in a way to incubate me into making this feature. And now I understand the tax credit process. I understand how to court a network, and because we ended up getting not one but two broadcasters on the project. We just had an acquisition on it, and we had a broadcaster that worked with us in making the film happen. And we also created a distribution company so that we can now distribute it ourselves and get it out there. So that's part of the process of making this thing happen, because the ecosystem in Canada is so uncertain and it's so competitive with so many new players in the space that the limited money that gets around is not getting around anymore. And you got to find ways of making things happen. And that's what we did. We invested a lot of our own money into the project, but we have a feature film that now plays in the theater and is doing very well in the festival circuit.
Amazing. Look, it's an amazing story, and all three of you are very different. I'll jump in as well, and then we'll get to the final two questions of our show, and then we're gonna take 1 to 3 questions from the audience. And again, thank you everybody for coming on. That's panelists and audience. I mean, I think education, especially for our industry, is so important, right? And everyone's story is so different. It's funny. So I wrote and directed one feature film. I produced it as well. It's called The Market. And again, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Everyone here, I think, has more directing experience than I do. I don't know, but I had actually never even directed a short film when I did that. I'll just start with a feature film and learn. It was. I look back now, it was a crazy thing to do, but I had been a pretty established young playwright, and The Market was my best play, right? So I had 50 to 100 people. I think you were there, right, Ryan?
I was there, yeah.
I had 50 to 100 people tell me this has to be a movie. And I was like, what are you talking about? It's a play, But people kept saying it. And I was like, all right, it's going to be a movie. And then I was like, how do I do that? I don't know. I didn't know anything about making movies. I didn't even know the names of different crew and what they did. But because so many people wanted me to make it, I was like, all right, I'll just figure it out. I figured it would be cheaper to turn it into a movie than it would be to tour the play, because to tour the play, obviously you have to pay people and I don't know, rent a venue and hotel. So for me it was just that. It was like, you know what? Let me just. I was like, even if I directed poorly, which I presumed I would, people liked the script and I knew the performances were good, and I figured, I went to U of T. How hard could it be? And so. My timeline was I wrote this play in 2009, produced it in 2010, and then it took 3 years to figure out how the hell am I going to do this. We did a little Indiegogo. I raised $5,500, the rest out of pocket, and then I ended up making this feature film for $12,000, all in. Essentially people worked for free or cut their rates, and people just believed in the project, and it turned out really, really well. And then it took 5 years to get a distribution deal, right? A small one. We got our little announcement and playback. And then it's funny because then as I got popular on Clubhouse, I became, I think, the most interviewed person in the world from that platform. I did 65 interviews around the world. And I mentioned The Market in every single interview. So, and then I got this manager in Hollywood and an agent. And, it's funny because it keeps building an audience. But if you really track it, it's 15 years after I wrote the script. Okay. And I'm still trying to get an audience. So, Ryan, you say 11 years, and it's like, I get it. And Kat was talking about 7 years. And, Dwayne's been doing this for many years. You realize it's not like an easy thing to get this stuff done. It's like you got to have the passion. It's not just for a quick buck. Okay, 2 more questions. Then we're gonna take questions from the audience. And again, whoever wants to jump in first. But what would you like to see the Canadian film and television industry do differently in order to grow?
I think I'm gonna jump in on that one.
No swearing. Remember, if you use the F word, an angel dies.
I'm going to jump in on that one. One of the things that is really important is for us to find investment that investors that are willing to take the risk on new and diverse projects. But we got to have, as creators, the entrepreneurial will to make sure that we're not just creating content and just saying, oh, we've created it, now we're going to jump to our next content. We got to be able to sell that content. Because if we're not making money with our content, we're not competing on the global market space. And we're not going to be able to make our next content because we didn't make the money on our first projects. And I think Canada lacks when it comes to real entrepreneurship, real people going out there and selling their project after they've made it, because they're so exhausted, they're so tired, and they're so broke. So we've got to have a better mechanism to going out and selling it. And it starts with the people who finance these projects. They have to rebuild the model that they've had historically. That's as far as I'm saying.
That's great. I love how he's such a boss too, because he's clearly just got like he's got his iPhone like here, and he's just like crushing it. Next, amazing. Kat, Dwayne, what do you think?
I'm interested to hear what Dwayne says on this.
I want to go for in Canada, it's not impossible. A big part about getting things made is the grant system, especially when you get into larger projects. Chances are, if you're going to be a creative and be a director or writer, at some point you're going to come up to not against, or have to work with a grant system to get money to get things made. So the good news is that system exists, and you can get things made. You can get that first couple of legs up in making projects. What I'd like to see is that system opening up and not having to embrace more broadly entertaining projects, because I think there's a lot of times there's been a lot of internal stories that are very deep, which is great, but you want to see a different breadth of project. And I think this year, just the success of a film like Blackberry, a very entertaining film, a very funny film that's also Canadian, I hope that opens the doors for the grant system to embrace more entertainment films and not just introspective films or TV shows.
I love that you said that, Dwayne, because I kind of feel the same way. I've actually never received a grant. I've made a lot of projects. I've produced and directed a lot of stuff. I've never got a grant. I really tried to chase that because I think it's like highly competitive, but I also think what is that? Someone's having a great.
Somebody just thought your answer was hilarious.
yeah, they thought it was so
Come
funny.
on, Kat, take it seriously.
Laugh it up. No, but it's like for a long time, I feel like telefilm, it's like they wouldn't, it's like a lot of dramas and not taking risks on like genre films or stuff that's like very commercial, I would say. Like, I feel like a lot of the films would fit very well in like TIFF or like certain festivals, but like not necessarily like, very commercial and like, genre driven. So that would be nice to see more of that. I also think, I don't really know, but like with ACTRA, what I would love to see, like one thing the DGC does, which is great, is they're so excellent with dispensation to allow directors to work on like certain projects that are of a certain budget if it's like lower as a director. So you can really build yourself as a director and do non-union projects. Whereas ACTRA, it's a bit more complicated, but I kind of feel like the problem is there's a lot of American productions that film here. And I think the Americans kind of have a lot of the power. And I think that like from all the shows that I've worked on, I see they bring up a lot of these like day player Americans, that there's a lot of fantastic Canadian actors that could fill those roles. I personally think that the Americans don't fully trust Canadian actors. And I don't think Canadians get a lot of opportunities at leads or really big roles. And so I think what's important is that actors have the opportunity to take lead roles in indie projects. And that's why like co-op and stuff exists, which is great. But the problem is there's a lot of like indie non-union producers and non-union directors who want to use non-union talent. And they've like broken out a lot of like pretty big actors and people who are now actor members and have now like, big leading opportunities. So it would be really cool if maybe like ACTRA could find a way to allow, an actor, if they haven't done a project in 2 years, to be able to do one lead in a non-union film if the opportunity arises. Because I think in the end, it actually helps us be seen on a more global stage and more respected.
Maybe smart people. Everybody here is so much smarter than I am. I'm still going to jump in with an answer, and then we're going to go to our final question about mentors. It's funny. So in the last 3 years, I've been LA based. I've been going back and forth, but I've built a pretty large network in Hollywood. And I will say the thing that surprised me the most about Los Angeles, I kind of went there being like, I'm from Canada. Oh, wow. Okay. Geez. Sorry. Oh my God. Justin Trudeau tracking me for years. Bro, chill out. The thing that surprised me the most about LA, look, it's very competitive. There's so many people, whatever. I met Scarlett Johansson. I think we had a vibe. Maybe not. I really don't know. But the thing that surprised me the most was the number of Americans that said, how do I work in Canada? In this country, I love Canada. It's challenging, but the more that I work around the world, the more I see how much respect there is for our country. And I think that people in other countries respect us more than we respect ourselves. And for me, that really struck a chord, man, because I was like, we complain, we tear each other down, we think we're doing everything wrong, but maybe we're doing it right. Like, we've got funding, we support artists, we're like diverse, like we're trying to help people. Like, look, there's always ways to get more attention for projects, but I think we need to be more positive about ourselves. That would be what I would have to say. And maybe that's very hokey, but I really do believe that. Okay, last question. I'm going to answer quickly because I know my answer right away. Mentors, and then we're going to go questions from the audience. Mentors, we all have mentors in this industry. Who are the people who have been your mentors and why? My answer very quickly is Tanya Lee Williams. Tanya Lee Williams, who doesn't know, runs the Real World Film Festival. I was the Canadian feature film programmer at that festival for 5 years. And I got that job because Tanya emailed me one day and said, hey, you want to be a programmer? And I was like, yeah, of course. By the way, what's a programmer? But anyone who knows Tanya knows, she has been supporting people of color passionately for decades. And, she still helps me. I needed a letter recently. She did it right away. There's a lot of people who, when you track their journey back, especially like in the BIPOC community, that's the starting point is Tanya. And I really appreciate her even more as I age and I look at some of the stuff I've done in this business and I go, man, like, if I didn't meet Tanya Lee Williams randomly at the CFC barbecue, I don't even know if I'd have the career I have. So I would say Tanya. Anybody else? Mentors.
I gotta leave very shortly after my answer, but I think Tanya is one of my mentors as well. I've been part of her festival since 2001, since its inception, and now I'm part of 2 of the programs. But also, Alexander Payne is a real mentor for me. I watch the way he works, and when we talk about diversity and inclusivity, it really starts from the top, and the way he runs his ship, it shows that it is from the top. Like, the way you do inclusivity is you do colorblind casting, and that's what he has done. And I really admire the way he works. Anytime you listen to any of the interviews after a production, people always talk about the man. They never talk about the show, and that's what I admire about him. It's about his inclusivity. And there's so many others, Seth Sutherland, Clement Virgo, all of these players in Canada are real mentors for me.
Amazing.
Yeah. I do have to cut short and leave, but I'm working on set right now. So thank you all very much for the time.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
The hardest working man in showbiz. He's on set now. Right now.
All right. Bye-bye.
God. Unbelievable. Okay. Dwayne, Kat, mentors.
Yeah. I'll go. It's funny because I'm working. I just finished working with my mentor for many, many years, and we hadn't worked together for a long time. So basically, when I was at Ryerson trying to get into film, I was cold calling like production companies. And then I called this one production company. A guy answered. They're doing a short film. He's like, hey, can you come out and help this weekend? I said, sure, I'll come out and help this weekend. Did that. We got along. He started producing music videos. I started working with him on a music video company for a couple of years. Got me my first PA gigs on commercials. It got me into that world. And then we hadn't worked together for over 20 years. And we just worked together because I'm talking about Jeremy Hood, who's the producer of Murdoch Mysteries. And the episode I just did was the first time that we had worked together in over 20 years. And he is definitely the person that got me on set and started my career. So that's, he's definitely, Yeah, it was great. It was great to work with him on this one.
Jeremy got you started on your career?
Yep.
Oh my God, that's amazing. I love Jeremy.
I cold called him. He answered the phone and said, "Come show up on Saturday." And I showed up, and that's the first time I said it in my life.
That is amazing. Jeremy actually wrote me a letter for my visa, which is super nice. He is one of the nicest, kindest, most helpful people. Not my mentor, but I think that's so cool.
Isn't that interesting though? How it's like you two have Jeremy in common, and me and Ryan have Tanya in common, and you know it's. And again, this is sort of part of the script in terms of mentors, but it's a really nice way to end the show, right? Because it's not a coincidence that the same names come up over and over again. You know, you build a business. It's cool.
Totally.
Kat, do you have mentors or?
You know what's so funny is like, I feel like I have so many, like in my mind, I would call them mentors, but I don't know if I went to them and was like, thank you for being my mentor. They'd be like, what? What did I do? Like, you know what I mean? I don't think it was any like official, you're my mentor thing, but I've had so many people along the way who have helped me. And I don't even think they realize they have. Like there's like too many to count. And a lot of them are men. So thank you to the men. Very, very kind people.
Thank you, men.
Thank you,
men. Okay, so at this point, if there's any questions from the audience, let's hear them. Hello, Jamie. Oh, I know Jamie from Clubhouse. Meeting you on Clubhouse during COVID was the best with an exclamation mark. This is very Jamie. It's very positive. Loving these comments. I like how AI gives us ideas for writing, but how can I keep my look / sound / style unique? Jamie's a voice actor, I believe. So, okay, here's the question then. So, how can people keep their look, sound, and style unique in the age of AI?
Yeah, it's so important. I think even for performers, for writers, for directors as well, like whatever your taste is. I think I'm talking from a director point of view, whatever your taste is absolutely so important. It really just make sure you're using your instincts every time, like when you work, like make sure it really feels like you when you're producing it, and hopefully you're distinct enough that if someone copies you, you're like, hey, that's me. Or other people, more importantly, other people recognize like that's actually Jamie. That's not AI. That was taken from somewhere. So I think being as distinct as possible is kind of the answer lies somewhere in there.
Kat?
I mean, I don't know if I like fully understand. So she's using. Is it the
Kat
question?
was born in another country. Sometimes English.
Like, so you're using AI and like taking ideas from like ChatGPT, but wanting to keep your writing voice and style fresh.
So I think Jamie's a voice actor, right? So I think that what she's saying is that she likes. I think for her, like AI is interesting because it can give her some ideas for writing. But she has a career based on her voice, right? So I think the idea is that AI is going to create essentially a lot of competition, right? And it can copy people, and so how does a distinct human, sort of maintain, like a competitive advantage when you have essentially robots that can copy anything?
This is a great question. I would love to hear your answer, Bobby.
Wow. We see your trick, by the way, right? It's like, as we answer the questions, Kat's like writing, she probably, has some PA in the background being, come on, help me out here. People are watching. Okay, so here's what I'll say. And again, I am in Polly is the New Monogamy on Hollywood Suite, but we've done a lot of press for the show. We've been fortunate to do it. And a lot of people will ask about, and I am answering this question, right? And they asked me a lot about the writing of the show, which obviously I didn't write it, but I know Kat so well. And what I say is, it's sort of like a new version of Sex and the City, but it still feels fresh and original. And the reason, and I mean that very sincerely, and the reason that it feels fresh and original is because Kat wrote it, and Kat is fresh and original. It's very like, because I know her so well, it's very like her point of view. And to me, I think that's a real lesson for people, is that don't doubt that we're all unique human beings, and that if you just come from a place of authenticity, like who you actually are, it lands. And no AI, no robot, no even other artist can do what you do the way that you do it, and we're in an industry where everybody competes against each other, and I understand, but at the same time, no one actually can compete against you because you're unique, you're different, your experiences, your point of view, like the way you see things, the way you say things, the way you create things, it comes from you. So I don't worry about that. I just think, just be you, and you'll be original. Kat?
I think that was so well said.
Oh, what he said?
What he said. No, I just think, I guess my thing was, it's like, to use like AI, I'm just speaking this in terms of like ideas for writing and stuff like this, but being, I just think it's like you can borrow ideas and like for structure and things like that, but you have to lean on yourself, and just like what you said, just being true to yourself, like, and not trying to compete. Like, how can you? I mean, everyone's just so different. You can't compete with a robot.
And nobody can compete with Dwayne. Dwayne's the coolest guy ever. I was like, I'm just happy he's not an actor. He goes in for like cool guy, and I'm like, oh god, Dwayne's here. I'll go home.
I will say that I do like your answer. Your answer was very concise and very cool.
I agree. I concur.
Wow. Okay, next question from Craig Weiss. Craig Weiss. It's probably Craig Weiss. Craig Weiss. Where do you see the future of traditional TV productions given the steady decline in TV viewership? Oh, what a downer, Craig. Will streaming services like Netflix maintain the balance? And I'm just poking fun. It's a really good question. I'll read it again. It's actually a really good question. Where do you see the future of traditional TV productions given the steady decline in TV viewership? Will streaming services like Netflix maintain balance?
I have theories.
Okay, Kat.
So I think that they're gonna try and go back to more of like the original TV model, but still on streaming. Like, I just think they're gonna make less content and put more money into that content. I don't think anyone's gonna stop making TV or anything like that. But like, Netflix will definitely survive, and I just think they're gonna kind of reformat how they do things, and there's gonna be ads like they've been doing, and make more money in that way.
Now, I will say, I think that he's differentiating between TV viewership, like typical TV, and Netflix, right? Like, he sees them differently. Do you, like, what do you think happens to TV?
Broadcast television versus...
Yeah.
Sure. Let me think on that. Dwayne, you want to go?
Yeah, I want to piggyback on what you said. I think, yes, it's going to be more streaming because we're all going that way. But unfortunately, streaming is going to end up looking more like broadcast looked 10 years ago. So it's going to have more ads. It's going to go back to that. Fewer shows, longer orders, more orders. Instead of 8, it'll be like 15, 20. So I very much agree with you that that's what's going to happen. And it sucks that we as consumers have to go through the situation where we now pay individually for different streaming services when before we just paid a lot of money for cable. But I think it is going full circle. And even if we're not watching on our TVs and or like our phones or iPads or whatever, the streaming services are going to win out. They are winning out, but they're going to end up looking a lot more like traditional cable.
Yeah, I think so too. It's just putting everything on streaming, but the traditional cable model on streaming. That's how they did it before. That's how they're going to do it again. Just kind of reject.
All right, I'm going to answer too, because I'm here. I'll speak in Ryan's charming accent. I'm going to go the other way. I think TV's dead and dying, not coming back. Bye. I actually think streaming is in trouble because I think that we have to rethink what content is and what the film and television industry is. I think we're about to see an amalgamation between tech and film and television. I think that TikTok, Instagram, what we're doing now, right? we're streaming on multiple social media platforms, Netflix. Like, I think all of these things are sort of competitors and collaborators, right? I think that this whole idea where we're siloing different aspects of content and charging money for them doesn't work, and that's why all the streamers are losing money. And I think that I don't exactly know what's going to emerge, but I think we're about to see a completely different media landscape in every way. And I think it's going to be influencer based and social media based, where in a way every single person is now their own movie studio. That's how I see it.
Yeah, but on the big on Netflix or whatever, like they have there's a select amount of TV shows that get all of the views, right? And it's an extreme amount. So obviously it's not like TV shows in general are like dying necessarily. It's just like the ones that get attention, it's like it's either TikTok or it's like the top 3 on Netflix. It's like those are what it gets attention. So
we're fighting now, just so everyone
it's regular.
Like we're just fighting publicly. Except Netflix has, I think, more views or something than like all the other streamers combined, and yet they're number 2 in terms of streaming platform. Does anyone know what number 1 is?
Right now, is it Apple?
YouTube.
YouTube, right.
YouTube. And you don't think of it because those of us in the film and television industry, right? It's like, oh, well, but that's not a professional thing. Yeah, but it's like so many people watch it way more than Netflix. I think more than all of them combined. I don't know, but it's like they're very clearly in first place, and I think it's because they're free. And I think it's become, YouTube is almost the new industry. And everything else is just kind of like a more expensive version of YouTube. And I know that sounds crazy to say, but I think you just have to go where people are watching. And the number 1 place they're watching is YouTube. So
I would say in between those two things, though, high-end storytelling where you have talented writers and talented directors and so forth, that will exist still because people like their stories. I like my stories. I like watching TV. So it's a matter, I'm curious to see where that pivots to and how that survives, because like you're saying, YouTube is like I think there will be a lot more people creating their own content. I agree with that 100%. But at the same time, at the other end of the spectrum, people are still going to want the big stories and series. So it's a matter of fact of like how that. Yeah, I'm curious to see how that survives or what that looks like in a couple of years from
now. Okay, so it looks like there are no more questions. But there and yeah.
Larissa.
It just popped up. This is the industry. You think you're down and out, and you're like, oh, no. And then you get a call from Jeremy Hood, who hasn't called me. Jeremy, hook a Bobby Del Rio up, bro. What's up? I could be in Murdoch Mysteries. Hello, I committed the murder. Okay, this is why I don't work on Murdoch Mysteries. Okay, Larissa Benfie Wilson. Benfie, interesting. I'd love to know what's something you learned later in your career that you wish you knew from the start. I'll repeat that. I'd love to know what's something you learned later in your career that you wish you knew from the start.
Yeah, this is something I was actually thinking about recently. I think in my early career, especially when I was a young commercial director, I was very focused on my work kind of already being finished in my mind before I started it. Like, I'm like, here's the thing I want to make. These are the rules. This is what it's going to look like. And I was very much on a path to like execute the thing that was in my head in the beginning. And it's really not like that. The more you kind of live it one day at a time, the more like you take the input from other people, as long as with like honing your ideas and making it better every day and not quite knowing what the end product is, like having in your head, but being open to what it could be. I find when you do that, it ends up being a much better finished product than when you're very stringent with sticking to your original idea and not bending.
Kat?
There's 2 things, and they're things that I tell people in the industry all the time, especially people who are like starting or emerging. Maybe like the first is unpopular to say, but trying to like also think of having an American career. Just the way that stuff works and the business works. I think like Canada's fantastic. I work a lot here. I love Canada. But like also incorporating the US and like having a manager down there and trying to like do work down there and development down there and stuff, I think is really important. And I wish it's something that I started a lot earlier in my career. I forget what the second one is, but that's definitely a big one.
I'll answer briefly. Nobody knows anything. That's what I've learned. I've been in the business for 26 years. Nobody really knows anything. So just don't try to do it right. Just do what you enjoy and have fun and enjoy your life. That's what I would say. Just do the things that you enjoy.
Be a coconut on the water.
Be a coconut on the water. This is what I say to Kat all the time. The best decisions of my life was I shut off my brain and I just go by feeling. And I'm sure it's very wrong for most people, but for whatever reason, for me, it works out. It's very weird.
It's not weird.
Oh, another question. Look at this. Like, there's people out there. And look, if you're watching this and you've been here for an hour and 22 minutes and 13 seconds, 14 seconds, 50 seconds, we appreciate you, you know? And it, you know, it's not just that we crave attention, which we do. It's like, you know, we're making an impact, you know, and the audience is an important part of this. Okay, Pukar has, look at this, he's a casting director too. Okay, hi, this is Pukar. I'm a casting director, recently moved to Canada from Nepal. So cool. We have been on a couple panels together on Clubhouse. He's talking to me. I remember you. And I was wondering if you could give some advice to a newcomer casting director in Canada on networking. Yeah, interesting. He's a casting director. He's new to Canada. How's he get himself out there? How's he network?
Kat, you're up.
You know what? It's good.
Hold on.
She deserves some of her own medicine.
There's a couple things that I want to say. Okay. The first thing is, I think as a casting director is like, obviously get to know the filmmakers. You're going to have to start in the indie world. So you want to know all those people, not like the big union shows. So figure out like the indie filmmakers who are making like, again, like the small features, even like the micro features, $100,000 features. I would start there. The second thing is I would be going to like acting classes and see who's really amazing. Right. And I think really good casting directors do that, and they really keep an eye on that type of thing. So, and then the other thing I would say is if you are a casting director in Canada is, I think it's easy to like be very insular with like who you bring in the room. So actors will love you even more if you give more people chances that usually aren't seen. So those are my 3 hot tips.
There's on fire. I don't know. Dwayne.
Mm-hmm. I want to say what she said because those were 3 very good.
You guys are just phoning it in now. It's like, I don't know.
We're just wavelength.
No, I think that was very insightful, and especially more than I would have advice for casting directors. Other than that, I would say if you are new, you need to get out and socialize. You need to, go to parties, try to meet people, try to have conversations. And each person you meet, especially being new to the country, each person you meet is going to open a door to somebody else. So keep doing that while you're doing all the amazing things that Kat just said.
Okay, here's my answer. You're networking right now. And we networked before. And, Clubhouse was really interesting for me because I had no plan. I had no strategy. I was bored. I was in my room. It was a pandemic. I was like, this sucks. Fine, I'll join this Clubhouse thing. I was like, I'm just going to talk to people because who's going to care about me? And then I became one of the most popular personalities in the world. I built all these relationships, all these connections by accident because I had a very simple strategy. Make friends with people for real. Just make friends with people, I think sometimes people overthink it. It doesn't matter if you're a casting director, or you're a PA, or a producer, or whatever, or you're from another country, you're from this country, you're from I just believe that our business is very simple. There's so many people competing against each other. It's really stupid to do that. We're the most collaborative industry in the world. For me, what does that mean? Make as many friends as you can, because we're all going to work together at some point. And if you're the kind of person who like pits yourself against others and you're like, I won't work with Kat, I'm the only director. And oh God, Dwayne. What kind of a name is Dwayne? He spelled it wrong. There's no U in Dwayne. It's like, just chill out, man. We always like each other and we want to make stuff together. I think it's pretty simple. Oh, Gloria Mann, the great Gloria Mann.
There you go.
You have to do this when you are not new.
Yes, Gloria. I love Gloria.
Yeah.
It's my favorite.
Real.
Gloria.
Hi, Kat. Loving this.
So much. I love Gloria. She is an amazing casting director.
Oh my God, you're loving each other publicly disgusts me. I mean, inspires me.
So crazy.
Oh, Petra. Okay. Thanks to all of you for sharing your stories and insight. Oh, Petra.
Thank you,
so
Petra. Thank you for
Thanks, Petra.
You mush. Petra's a mushy mush. This is how you know it's been it's time, because I just don't care. Oh my God, Gloria loves her more.
I love you.
Thanks, Gloria. Appreciate it. Dwayne and I are just like, yeah, cool. Keep loving each other.
He loves us all.
It's fine. Right? Thank you. Petra appreciates my humor.
We all do. Sometimes.
Look, let's do final thoughts. There's no more magical messages popping up. And again, I appreciate every single person who's tuned in on the panel. Ryan Singh, who was here before, but unfortunately had to leave. The audience for tuning in, our sponsor, My Tribe. But let's just do final thoughts. Dwayne, Kat, Petra and I are new best friends.
Yeah.
You're not wrong, Petra. You're not wrong. Final thoughts, Kat, Dwayne.
I'll start. Yeah, I'll go this time. We kind of hinted on this earlier. This life, if you choose it to be a writer, director, producer, you really do have to love it, because you got to make things that you love to make. You're not going to make money in the beginning doing it, and it's a weird thing, because the projects, if you put love into it, it sounds cheesy, but those are the projects that are going to hit and get you the next opportunity. So it's really about doing this because you really, really, really like doing it, and you can't see yourself doing anything else, because the money is going to take a while to come in. So that's a bit of a reality check.
That's good. Kat?
Yeah, you know what?
Oh my God, Gloria Mann's like, Kat is my favorite. We know, Gloria. It's very obvious to all of us.
I love her. I miss her. Yeah, look, I think that the one thing I can say is take a flyer on yourself. Take a risk and take it on yourself. You're going to have to invest a lot. That's emotionally, that could be financially, that could be everything. But you just have to really believe that you can, and go for it, as cliche as that sounds. Like, for example, it's a really big risk. Try to create an independent TV show. I may not have sold it, might have made no money on it. Like, there's a whole bunch of risks associated with that, but it's, paying dividends, and not just like financially or career-wise or whatever, but also just like it fills your heart. And I think that's why we get into this business to begin with, is because you really enjoy telling stories and you're passionate about it, and just makes you feel good, or it's something that you can give back to the world. So just got to go for it.
I'm gonna weigh in a little bit of advice. Just have fun. I think Dwayne was saying it. Kat didn't say it, but she meant it.
Have fun. Yeah.
Have fun. You have fun, because look, I get it. Like, it's tough right now for money, gigs, and there's all, the changing media landscape and AI. There's so many reasons to freak out. But at the end of the day, if you love this business and you love the people in this business, this is the best business in the world, man. It's like, we're playing. We're like kids, and we get to do stuff. And if you track the stories of everyone on this panel, it's very inspiring. Everybody's successful, but everybody's been doing this for years because they love it. And if you love it, just do it. You find a way. It's not rocket science. Unless it is rocket science, then study rockets. This is why I don't work. I know Gloria loves cats so much, and she thinks Dwayne's like a B+, and I'm like a D-. You don't even know me, Gloria. Wrong with you. Look, we appreciate all the guests, our panelists, everybody who showed up today. Charlene, we got to give Charlene her props for putting this whole thing together. And E-Boss, the audience for tuning in, our sponsor, My Tribe, and apparently I have to do a gesture, which I will. It's my first time. I got this job 4 hours ago, and thank you everybody for coming.
Are we still here? I was on